Hello students, this is Bindu Chaudhary welcomes you in your social science class. We are covering our civics portion of the book Social and Political Life part 3rd, and in this one we are continuing our unit first. The name of the unit first is the Indian Constitution and Secularism. We had studied our chapter first, the Indian Constitution, the fundamental rights, judiciary, executive, legislature, etc. in our chapter first, and now we are starting our chapter second. The name of the chapter is Understanding Secularism. When we are coming on the word secularism, it means a lot of means in our country India, but we will study all over the worldwide countries. Okay, so today we are starting our part first, and in this part first we will examine the cases and the situations of different countries. See, history provides us with many examples of discrimination, exclusion and persecution on the grounds of religion. Yes, many times in history we saw the discrimination between upper class and lower class, between different castism also, the exclusion from the society, bahishkar karna, and the persecution on the grounds of religion, because many times scheduled castes and untouchables suffered from this position. And you may have read about how Jews were persecuted in Hitler's Germany. Yes, the situation you studied in your history portion about the condition of the Jews in Hitler's Germany timing, okay, and how several millions were killed on that time in the Germany situation when Hitler was there. So situation, see what's the secularism and what's the situations going on the other countries as well as in India also. We will study that one when we are considering about the worldwide positions, students. See, now however the Jewish state of Israel, in Israel also it treats its own Muslims and Christians minority is quite badly. So the situation in Israel, in Germany and in other parts of the countries, worldwide countries, the situations very worst were there. And see the situations of Muslim and Christians there, lot of them minorities quite badly behaved by the other peoples. And when we are studying about Saudi Arabia, only Muslims are allowed in Saudi Arabia, but what's the situation of non-Muslims there, students? When we are talking about the secularism portion, then non-Muslims are not allowed, totally not allowed. For what, students? To build a temple there, to build a church there. It means whatever may be the positions, totally not allowed to build any temple and churches in Saudi Arabia, and nor can they gather in a public place for prayers. If they want to pray to their gods, then only at home they will, not at the public places they pray to their gods. So the situation, see, in Saudi Arabia, non-Muslims are totally not allowed to gather to prepare churches and temples there. When we are considering about all these examples, the situations in worldwide state of secularism, see the conditions: members of one religious communities either persecute or discriminate against members of other religious community. See what's the main example we are concluding of the main basis of the worldwide situation, students, here, that the one of the religious community either persecute और डिस्क्रिमिनेट, हम क्या कहते हैं, कई बार डिस्क्रिमिनेट, भेदभाव करने लग जाते हैं. एक रिलीजियस कम्युनिटी है, वो क्या करती हैं, वो दूसरे रिलीजियस कम्युनिटी से भेदभाव करने लग जाती हैं, उनके मेंबर्स से भेदभाव होना शुरू हो जाता है. दीज एक्ट्स ऑफ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन टेक्स प्लेस मोर इजीली when one religion is given official recognition by the state at the expense of other religions. It means what's the conditions here? If any state gives preference to only one religion, then what's happened to the other religious peoples, students? Yes, they themselves became so much offense and feels that we are totally unsecure. That's why these acts of discriminations are not allowed. When we are taking the help of this picture here, yes, this picture is of India and we all are Indians. So, what's the picture shows? This picture shows temple as well as church and gurudwaras and masjids, etc. And the slogan is here, student, our unity lies in our diversity. See the best example of our India. Proud to be an Indian, because in your school also, not only one community, one religious people's students are there, maybe teachers, maybe students. So, all the communities, all the religious students are there in your class also, student. So, understood the lines, our unity lies in our diversity. That's why we are the main part of the country for the purpose of the secularism. Clearly, no one would wish to be discriminated against because of their religion, nor dominated by another religion. This is the fact. If any person from any religious community wanted to discriminate another person of the another religious community, then this is not allowed, totally not allowed. In India, we have a question here. Can the state discriminate against citizens on the grounds of their religion? No, not at all. Any state can't discriminate against citizens on the grounds of their religions, on the ground of their casteism, on the ground of their upper and lower classes. So, the main point we are searching here is the personality of the religious peoples. Okay, when we are taking the secularism word, then it is important that we will consider what is secularism here. See, in the previous chapter, the Constitution chapter, you read about how the Indian Constitution contains fundamental rights. Yes, we had studied about fundamental rights in our chapter first, that protect us against state power. Yes, just we had discussed about the state's discrimination. So, this fundamental rights protect us against state powers as well as against the tyranny of the majority. If any majority religious community want to pressurize another one, then it's totally not allowed, maybe state power, maybe any majority community. Okay, so the concept is clear in our fundamental rights also. The Indian Constitution allows individuals the freedom to live. See, what's in our fundamental rights? We had studied, students, about the freedom of life by their religious beliefs and practices as they interpret this. It means maybe of any religious practice the person, the citizen is, maybe of any caste he or she is, we have equal rights for the freedom to live in our Indian Constitution. In keeping with this idea of religious freedom for all the purpose, not for one person, one religion, community people or to the another one, religious freedom for all. India also adopted a strategy of separating the power of religion and the power of the state. It means in India we have totally separation of power. State's powers are separated from the powers of the religions. It means religious peoples here. We can't mix this one. Secularism refers, it means what's the real definition of secularism comes out. Secularism refers to the separation of religion from what, students? Separation of religion from separation of state. So, the concept of secularism is totally clear in your minds, and we also check out the definition of secularism here. We are coming on the next important topic. See, Why is it important to separate religion from the state? Just we had studied this sentence, and we check out again a question from this sentence. Why? This one is the important to separate religion from the state. Is there any necessity of this one? We will read here. As discussed above, the most important aspect of secularism is its separation of religion from what, students? Religion from state power, as we had discussed here, as we had discussed in the definition of secularism also. This is important for a country to function democratically. Why the separation of power? Why the separation of religion from the separation of the state power is necessary? Because we have what, students? We have a democratic policies, democratic country. India is a democratic country, and in this one all the functions democratically happens. That's why it is important to separate religion from state powers. Okay. Almost all countries of the world will have more than one religious group living in them. Yes, we had studied many, and we just read many newspapers also, many electronic media also gives us news, and we have GK queries also, and for that matter we searched out, students, you also searched out with help of your teachers, with the help of your parents, guardians, etc. What you searched out, students? But we searched out the important thing that all countries of the world have more than one religious group of people living in them. So, what's the important in this one? What's it is correlate with the secularism here? We will take here. Within these religious groups, there will most likely be one group that is in a majority. Yes, this concept is totally clear. Any religious community has not the number of counting peoples. 100 are in Hindu, and 100 are in Jewish, and 100 are in Christian. So, no number categorization is there. Maybe sometimes any religious group has a majority and any other religious group has a minority. So, what's the relation of majority and minority related to the religious communities? Here we will discuss. If this majority religious group has access to state power, then it could quite easily use this power and financial resources to discriminate against and persecute persons of other religions. What's the role of the majority community here? See, if a majority religious groups are there and they access the state powers as well as financial resources also, so this one is totally sufficient to discriminate against the persons of other religious peoples of or other religions. Okay. So, majority holds the state power as well as financial powers, and that is not the basis of discrimination here. This tyranny of the majority could result in the discrimination, caution, and at times even the killing of religious minorities. Yes, in all over world studies, it is the necessary thing that we check out. What literally it means? It means that the majority of the religious community, they hold the state power as well as financial power, and on the basis of these things they discriminate many times, and this one is the result of killing of religious minorities there. Is it necessary? Is it not necessary? But all these things are normally going on in many countries, in many states as well. The majority could quite easily prevent minorities from practicing their religions. It means if any religious community has a majority of people in that one, they always pressurize to convert other community, other religious people to convert themselves into the other religion. And this one is the main thing, that the minorities prevented by these majority communities to practice their own religious practicing things. So, any form of domination based on religion is in violation of the rights that a democratic society guarantees to each and every citizen irrespective of their religion. So, what's important in this one? When we have fundamental right of what? Fundamental rights to live. When this one is there, then maybe of any religion, maybe of any caste, maybe of any community, every people have right to pray to God in their own beliefs, in their own customs and traditions. And when we are connecting this one domination point of view, then what's happened, students? Religious in violation of the rights is not allowed in a democratic country or democratic societies, because it always gives a guarantee to each and every citizen. For what, students? What each and every citizen guaranteed by the constitution as a fundamental right? The guarantee of irrespective of their religion to pray any god, to pray any type of praying songs and etc. Okay. Therefore, the tyranny of the majority and the violation of fundamental rights that can result is one reason, one important reason here why it is important to separate the state and religion in democratic society. So, I think the concept is totally clear in your mind, students, about the separation of state powers as well as the democratic society's religion based things. So, totally differ. That's the main important to be a democratic country, and we protect fundamental rights also, not the violation of fundamental rights are there after the separation of state power and religion. Another reason we have also here, and this reason is important because to separate religion from the state in democratic societies, we have one more reason for this one, to separate religion from the power of the state. Why? Because we also need to protect the freedom of individuals. Any citizen has a right to freedom to themselves and freedom of individual to exit from their religion. What's the main important thing here? If any people, any person wants to exit from her or his religion, then no a big issue is there. Embrace another religion or have the freedom to interpret religious teachings differently. So, if any person, his or her, wants themselves to allow themselves to convert themselves from the one religion to the another religion, they are totally allowed. They are totally allowed to interpret religious teachings of the different communities also, as Jainism and in Buddhism and in Sikhs, Christianity, Hindus, Muslims, many things are there which are to be followed by the peoples who believes in all these important and very basic ethics and important things. When we are considering all these considerations, so it is easy to understand this point better. Let us take the practice of untouchability. We had studied untouchability many times, but when we are considering the discrimination here, persecution here, then it is important here to discuss about the untouchability. Student, why it is important? See, one by one we are taking, step by step we are taking and elaborating our chapter here. You might feel that you dislike this practice within Hinduism, and therefore you want to try and reform it. Yes, in Hinduism also there are many discriminations, and as a citizen of India you want to reform all these things, you want to try all these to reform also. So, what you will do? However, if state power, yes, we are taking state powers as well as religion, okay, in secularism, if state power were in the hands of those Hindus, We are taking here an example of Hinduism. If state power hands of those Hindus who support untouchability. See the condition here, the Hindus who always support to untouchabilities. Then do you think that you would have an easy task to try and change this? If untouchability is there, many Hindu citizens are doing this thing in practice, so how you will reform the society? This one is the main issue here. Even if you were part of the dominant religious group, you might face a lot of resistance from fellow members of your community also. Again, with the Hinduism untouchability, we have another point here, the part of the dominant religious group. If any religious group is dominant, is in the majority situation, then what's happened, student? You might feel a lot of resistance from the fellow members of your own community also. This one is the basic thing we are persuading. These members who have control of state power might say, what they say, students? They say that there is only one interpretation of Hinduism, and that you do not have the freedom to interpret these differently. So this interpretation is here, and see the picture of the national integration here, masjid, mandir, gurudwaras, and these Christianities also, and all these hum saath hain, and really we are proud to be an Indian because we are united. We are united, maybe of any religion, maybe of any community, and this one is the important thing we learn from this chapter also, that in India we have the power to adopt any religion, but we have also a friendly thing that in our class also many students are there of different religion, and we have no discriminations at all. So what in this chapter we are concluding in our next session. Stay with us. Have a nice day.